Americans actually seem to be growing less empathetic to the transgender cause. But what's behind it? What's going on here? Well, some activists and movement leaders think that it is due to the transgender movement's confrontational and accusatory approach. And I'm not saying that. This lengthy piece published in the New York Times this week really did delve into it. So on social media in particular, some of you might have seen time and time again, like advocates for the cause being pretty aggressive. And look, it comes from a good place. This is just about
I don't know if it comes from a good place. I'm not going to say that, but I might surprise you. This is Ana Kasparian on the Young Turks, of course, talking about the transformer issue. I might surprise you a little bit. What I'm going to do this one a little bit differently. I'm going to let the Young Turks play out for the most part, Ana Kasparian for the most part. And then after she's done, I'll do very brief interruptions. After she's done, I'm going to explain to you why I actually don't have a problem in certain cases using the pronouns that these transformers wish. I'll let you know why and why that is. And then there's going to be a shift to this heavy debate with Hotep Jesus and Dr. Karlin Borisenko, two people I really like a lot. Dr. Karlin Borisenko, I am a huge fan and supporter of. Hotep Jesus just unblocked me. Breaking news, everybody. But let's get back to Ana Kasparian. The Young Turks, I think they actually have, at least Ana Kasparian here, I think she is coming from a good place here. I don't think she's playing games. She's right in some, she's wrong in others. Let's get it going.
Tactics, right? They're aggressively going after anyone they see as like stepping out of line, saying anything that might be deemed insensitive toward the trans community. For example, after a Democratic congressman defended parents who expressed concern about transgender athletes competing against their young daughters, a local party official and ally compared him to a Nazi cooperator. Okay, and a group called Neighbors Against Hate organized a protest outside his office. But look, the example that was detailed in this piece that really bothered me is the one I'm about to detail, okay? So last week, as we all know, Nancy Mace, and she's continued it like this week, like she's engaging in this really disgusting harassment campaign against an incoming transgender member of Congress. First, openly transgender member of Congress to, serve in the House. And her name is Sarah McBride. And just preemptively off the, right after the election where Trump proved to be successful, partly because of airing an ad about Democrats' support for transgender people, you have Nancy Mace try to capitalize on that, try to kind of piggyback off of that. And that's why I believe she's been attacking Sarah McBride pretty aggressively.
True.
But you would think the transgender community, or at least the activists, would support Sarah McBride and want to protect her. But that unfortunately has not been the case.
Anna's wrong there. There's no need to protect her. I'll talk about the pronouns later. Sarah McBride, I don't even know what his real name is, but for that situation, I will use whatever words. I don't know that person. I don't follow them, but there's no protection. Sarah McBride won that battle with Nancy Mace. Nancy Mace made the bathroom issue a big issue while we've got the Middle East, all kinds of chaos is going on in the Middle East right now. We just found out that Syria and Assad has fallen. And Nancy Mace, while this is happening, leading up to this happening in the Middle East, all this stuff still going on, Lebanon, all that, Nancy Mace is arguing about what bathroom. All the members of Congress have their own private bathrooms. What are we talking about? Let's get back to Ana Kasparian. Let me know if I'm off base on that one.
In fact, they are saying that she is a voice for her constituents rather than a voice for the transgender movement. And then they accused her of capitulating to the right. She has done no such thing at all. Okay, the fact that now she's getting this kind of hate from activists really upsets me.
Yeah,
but look, that kind of strategy also doesn't really seem to be working. It's actually been pretty counterproductive for the transgender community. More than 24 red states now limit access to transition medical treatment. And public opinion is actually trending in the opposite direction that these advocates were pushing for. Fewer Americans today than 2 years ago say they support allowing children to undergo gender transition treatment, according to the Public Religion Research Institute.
That should be up to the local area. We're going to get to that. That's the Hotep Jesus, what we're going to end with. That's the heated debate we're going to end with. This one right here.
I will say the Public Religion Research Institute very clearly would have a bias. So I would take their data with some grain of salt. But nonetheless, you kind of see it when it comes to public opinion. So I remember in 2016, when Republicans were trying to make the bathroom issue a big deal, the majority of Americans weren't buying it. The majority of Americans are like, let's just stop harassing transgender people. It's the bathroom. Like, there's stalls. Everything's going to be okay. I do think it gets a little tricky, though, when it comes to other, gender segregated or sex segregated spaces like a women's locker room and all of that. I don't want to get into the details, but like when it comes to the bathroom, most Americans were on the side of allowing transgender people to use the bathroom that they identify with.
I don't know if that's true. I have to look that up.
That's kind of changing now. I'm actually seeing a lot of support toward Nancy Mace and a lot of backlash toward the trans community. A 2024 YouGov poll found that 36% of Americans say societal acceptance of transgender people has gone too far. And that's actually a 7 percentage point increase since 2018. And
yeah, that's because there's no rights that they don't have that everybody else has. So what are we even talking about at this point? If we're talking about bathroom or sports, really that has to be left up to the sports organization or the local areas. We don't need a federal law on bathrooms. You guys want the FBI involved with who's using what bathroom in your school or private business? That's a local issue. Local resolutions, local type of decisions at the city and state level. That's why it's changing. People don't understand, what are you complaining about? Let's get back to Young Turks.
Numbers like that have led to some people rethinking their strategy. So Rodrigo Heng, I don't want to mispronounce his name, but Rodrigo Heng Littinen, who's the executive director of Advocates for Transgender Equality, argues, quote, "We have to make it okay for someone to change their minds. We cannot vilify them for not being on our side. No one wants to join that team." And he says, no one wants to feel stupid or condescended to. Another advocate named Mara Kiesling, who founded the National Center for Transgender Equality back in 2002, remembered an adage that she used 20 years ago about the legislative priorities. You can't say don't fire them until you can say don't kill them, meaning that advocates should focus first on measures that reinforce the fundamental humanity of transgender people.
What are we talking about? I don't even understand. What is this? What specifically are you talking about? If you're talking about the gender affirming care, I have no problem if your local area, if your state wants to, if California wants to do something different than Tennessee, that's what it's going to have to be. But wait till we talk about the reaction that needs to happen to that. It's a local decision, guys.
Such as hate crime protections. Then, she said, you can push more effectively for laws about discrimination. And she also argues that activists lost credibility with many Americans once they started accusing people of bigotry for having concerns about trans women in high-level sports. We looked unreasonable. We should be talking about the 7-year-old who just wants to play soccer with her friends. And look, this is the critical takeaway from the piece. Advocates say that their research had found that the most effective messaging takes into account that most Americans do not know a lot about life as a transgender person and reinforce the basic idea that transgender people want what everyone else wants: fairness, respect, and love.
Okay, the government can't give that to you. That's where faith comes in. Let me tell you my take on the pronoun thing. If I respect you, then I will call you what you want to be called. It's no different than if a Michael wants to be called Mike. I don't care. I've seen people who have a completely different name. And they say, well, I don't go by that name. I go by Hunter or Robert. If I respect you, I'll call you that. If I don't respect you, I'll call you a female dog. I'll call you a bundle of sticks. It's no different with the pronoun. Why would the pronoun thing be different? I was online and I saw a priest reply to a post from a young man, and he called that young man racist. And the young man, in my eyes, didn't say anything racist. You might disagree with him, but for a Catholic priest to be telling a young man that he's unchristlike and he's racist without providing evidence, it was not a good look. Started to look at the priest and the background. They support rainbow flags and all of that. And that's not compatible. That priest I have no respect for. I don't care. There are people, you say trans women, that I do have respect for. They have good takes. They never express any kind of desire to take away my rights. Maybe we disagree on some things, but I have no beef with you. I respect you. I'll use the pronoun her, whatever you want for that. If it's somebody I don't respect or don't know, I'll have to gauge it. The problem is when you try to force it on people. It's not, for me at least. If other people have something different, they don't want to play the game of the fantasy world, you go do you. But that's my take on that. Let's get to Hotep Jesus. And
some people want to trans their kids, right? And they want, and the conservatives, or I would call them, this is what I would call, this is a woke right stance. Ban transing kids. I think that's a woke right thing. But at what point do we allow nature? This is the problem.
Well, the answer in this case is easy. This is the problem.
Hold on. This is the problem, you know, and I'm going to just be frank here. This is the Griff Report. I wild out. This is the problem with white folks. Y'all always trying to fix some shit. Stop trying to fix some shit. Every time you fix some shit, you break some shit. So the problem is white folks always trying to save somebody. Y'all trying to save Africa, you messed that up. Trying to save South America, you messed it up. Try to save Ukraine, you messed it up. Leave. If mothers want to chop they dick off, let them chop they dick off and mind your business.
That's my end take here. The take that Ana Kasparian is missing when she's on the Young Turks and they don't have anybody who's diverse in their political leaning, so they definitely don't have any libertarians there. They actually hate libertarians. Decentralization is the answer. If you want to go ahead and have a procedure, it doesn't affect me. It doesn't hurt me. If a parent, if a child, and a doctor all agree, that's on them. That's their decision. There is nothing that a parent, a doctor, and a child agree upon that I should be involved in because it has nothing to do with me. And that's the take. The take is it shouldn't be on the federal level, and you wouldn't be having these problems, Ana Kasparian. You wouldn't be having these issues where there's backlash, because it would be almost like how we're handling the fetuses, the unborn, the reproductive rights. Donald Trump had the right take. He said it's back to the states. And there's some red states that decided we want to let people do it. That's federalism, and that's the way forward. Let me know if that were the take, would you be okay with that? Here's the other part of it. If you are in a marriage where half of the people do not want to do these procedures to children and half of the people think it's love, then that's a marriage that can't go on, and you have to consider a divorce. And I'm talking about the country is a marriage, because you can't be on a jury to decide my fate if we don't have the same moral foundation. We aren't peers at that point. So there has to be a process of saying, what is the line that your state is doing that my state isn't, that we can no longer be in a union together? That would be a healthy discussion to have. And people like the Young Turks, they do a good job, don't get me wrong, but they don't get that deep. This is After Show Carnage. This one is crazy. That's where this transformer issue needs to go. Whether people like it or not, let me know what you think.
Also give a like, comment, and subscribe. After Show Carnage.